shoulder joint, we all know it's having a greatest range of motion. The stability depends on the rotator cuff, which most of the time get injured and the patient presented with cuff pathy. Then the glenoid stalk is very less. If you see the glenoid anatomy, the glenoid fossa is facing upward and it is 6 to 7 degrees retroverted. So the thing is, radius of curvature of glenoid fossa is behaving different way with the humeral head, which is only 30 to 40% it gets articulated with each other. Then humeral head faces medially, superiorly and posteriorly with regard to shaft of humerus. The angle of inclination is 130 to 150 degree and the angle of torsion or retroversion we say is around 30 to 40 degree. We all know that the shoulder joint depends on the rotator cuff to perform all the functional. So this is one of the paper which shows the maximum of 7.5 mm of upward translation of the humeral head may occur during range of movement of shoulder. So it requires coordinated movements requiring all the rotator cuff to act in a similar way. So if you see the anatomical total shoulder arthroplasty, the goal of anatomical shoulder arthroplasty is to restore the pre-morbid state by recreating normal shoulder kinematics. So it is more of an anatomical, and what we are nowadays forward to the reverse shoulder, which is completely a non-anatomical arthroplasty. So the rotator cuff acts as an essential dynamic stabilizer for the anatomical total shoulder. If we see here, as we say, the anatomical total shoulder totally depends on the shoulder kinematics. We have to recreate the shoulder kinematics. But if a patient is having an osteoarthritic head or osteoarthritic glenoid, then it is very difficult to recreate that kinematics. If the paper has shown that even if we increase a glenoid, we use a thick glenoid or we use a large head, the glenoid, we call it as a lateralization, which can basically impinge on rotator cuff. These are the some technical, what medial offset, what is medial offset, what is center of rotation. If you see, the normal humeral head has a mean diameter of 46.2 plus 5.4 and a humeral height of approximately 19 mm. So the osteoarthritic head is more flattened, and it has been shown that if it is like elliptical in shape, and even the theoretical data proves that elliptical head will perform better in total shoulder arthroplasty. What we have seen, the highest point of humeral head lies 8 to plus minus 3.2 above the greater tuberosity, and the neck aft angle is around 115 to 148. So there are two offset what we are getting into the anatomical shoulder, that the posterior offset and the medial offset. These parameters are helpful to select the appropriate humeral head implant, as this crucial step will ultimately determine the joint of center of rotation. So everything revolves around the joint of center of rotation, and we know the humeral torsion, which is most important thing in anterior total shoulder arthroplasty because it affects the center of rotation. So if we see the technical challenges in anatomical total shoulder is that the size. If you increase the size of head, there is a decrease in range of motion. If you are decreasing the size, it causes GT impingement. So even if we place the position, we change the position of head. If it is superior, it is going to increase supraspinatus tension. If it is anterior, increase subscapularis tension. If it is an inferior, then it causes an early GT impingement, and if it is an posterior, causes early anterior impingement. So this is what is called as rocking horse effect. It is common with the total shoulder arthroplasty. So glenoid placement is also a critical things to do. Basically the radar of curvature of glenoid and the humeral head is somewhat mismatched. That is why it can give into the effect of what is we called as rocking horse effect, which can cause early loosening and glenoid wear. So how to tackle with the glenoid bone loss, that is one of the things for an anatomical total shoulder. So basically preoperative planning is must. We have to quantify how much the defect is. Then there is a definitely a classification to glenoid wear. It has been shown that the type B and type C wear are very difficult to treat. in glenoid bone loss with an anatomical total shoulder, because it doesn't require an concentric rimming method. So the main options to choose is asymmetrical rimming, posterior bone grafting, and posterior augmented implant. So comes to the rever shoulder orthoplasty, which is first coined by Paul Gramont, introduces ball and socket design, which is opposite. And the key principle is to increase the lever arm, that is shoulder, that is deltoid, which is completely, the deltoid is the main muscle which is providing stability and even the range of motion in reverse shoulder arthroplasty. So center of rotation is somewhat fixed in reverse shoulder arthroplasty, that is why the wear rate is less. So conclusion is that reproducing anatomy is at the center of anatomical total shoulder, which is difficult, as we see the glenoid loss. If it is more like type 2 and type C, it is very difficult with anatomical total shoulder. So I will take a few seconds. So RSA was initially developed to treat cuff tear orthopathy, but nowadays its indication is increasing day by day to even the fracture patients. So inferior base plate positioning and therefore inferior glenosphere overhang, that is the only one thing which can avoid scapular notching, which is very common with the reverse shoulder orthoplasty. Thank you.